Hey everyone, Frosty here. So I wasn't planning on making a video this weekend before we get this big patch update and then also the Viper Commando warp on, but I was playing around this weekend and around with some other builds and just had to share this one with y'all. In this video, my goal is to share with y'all what I call a rapid response build. So the goal of this loadout is to provide a quick response with somewhat shorterish cooldowns. So when dealing with any threats on the field, now I will say that this is more of a for fun loadout, and there are way better builds to run on a Helldive mission. However, with some diversity, and while we're just having the sake of for fun, I would run such a build or loadout when others are running more anti-tanks. At minimum, I see expendables and quasars to at least 2 or 3 other divers. But again, I thought some diversity doesn't hurt. So with that being said, consider my reasonings for this loadout and variations throughout the video, and then let me know down below in the comment sections what you or wouldn't have or do in this type of loadout. So before we begin, I wanted to remind y'all that we do try to stream every Monday, Wednesday, Friday from 7 to 9 p.m. EST on Twitch. And also don't forget to like and subscribe, as that does help the channel grow, and you guys are still blowing us up. So thank y'all so much for the opportunity. And with that being said, thank you again, and let's dive into our rapid response loadout. So starting out with our primary loadouts, we're going to talk about the primary weapon, the secondary weapon, and then the grenade slot. So incoming with the primary weapon would be our Pummeler. I enjoy using this weapon within this build loadout and idea of a build solely due to the fact that it has a high ammo capacity of 45 with 7 spare magazines. On top of that, it can stagger enemies. Most importantly, can stun lock stalkers and hunter patrols. It does 65 damage, has 475 rate of fire, and has the ability to shoot one-handed when running away, which is extremely helpful in the need to kite or train enemies. Kind of think of like Nazi zombies where you're running around. Now Terminids are more a bit of a free thinker, so they'll be jumping in the air, but you can stagger them like the hunters when they're jumping in the air at you, as to name one example. So this also allows your primary to be utilized as a utility feature, so you can create distance and call down stratagems or pull out your support weapon, which could cause an explosive kickback if you're trying to use that more as a primary, which we'll see when we introduce our stratagem of the autocannon. But to kind of wrap up the primary section, this fast reacting submachine gun, and I know it's kind of contradicting because this is one of the, if not the slowest submachine gun out of the others that we have to offer, but it allows for so much versatility because of the stagger effect. So that's why I have this as my primary weapon within the rapid response loadout. All right, leading us into the secondary slot here, we have our grenade pistol, and then the variation to it would also be a Senator revolver within this loadout. So starting off with the grenade pistol, I like to utilize this weapon, and as we said in many of our other videos, as a versatility weapon. So that means we're using it to attack enemies, whether we're killing smaller Terminid patrols or switching off to points of interest with blowing cargo doors. It also does very well against bile and nursing spewers. I know that it does take a little bit of time to kill them, a little bit of investment. That's not entirely worth it, but it is there for us to use it. And then also closing any bug holes. Now, switching off to the Senator revolver, I like using this. This can be very short and simple. It's high damage, can pierce medium armor, and has a speed loader. If I'm running anything in terms of an impact grenade, then I'll run the Senator revolver. If I'm running a stun grenade, then I'll run the grenade launcher pistol. So that concludes the secondary weapon slot. As we're concluding our primary loadout part of the video here, we're going to be talking about the impact incendiary and the stun grenade in this loadout. And the reason why I like running the impact incendiary, so that means that I would probably be running a Senator revolver with this, is I like the fact that it acts as an impact grenade, and with that utility, you can open points of interest, and then you can also close bug holes, and it also has a AoE effect, so you get the enhanced burn damage on top of that, which is also known as damage over time or dot damage. And now swapping off to the other portion of the grenade, or I like to call a utility, would be our stun grenade. So I would use this compared with the grenade pistol, as maybe I'm looking to do more stun lock to enemies on top of like with our Pummeler, which can also stagger, but the stun grenade can help lock in enemies, which goes hand in hand with using our stratagems. And then lastly, I'd like to add about the impact incendiary. This helps control the area, especially if I'm trying to deal more with the bug breaches and also any hunter patrols. It does a very good job containing them in a small area, solely due to the fact that when they run over or you impact them with the incendiary, it does a lot of damage. So that concludes our primary loadout. Now, starting off with the bread and butter of the rapid response build loadout is going to be the stratagems. So the idea behind these stratagems and why I like these and the variations, they allow for a quick response with shorter cooldowns. So with the autocannon, assuming we're perfect and obviously we don't die and we have to go pick it up or we have to wait like 6 minutes, we just assume we're just that good. So with that being said, the autocannon and the whole purpose for me with the autocannon is to allow me to deal with bile and nursing spewers, potentially the stalkers, a lot quicker. And also the hive guards and then the brood commanders. They really do a lot of containing and killing these. You can also use it when dealing with AoE packs like hunters that may be patrolling. So again, with the 10 shots that we get, this allows us to have a lot of high damage output. Now, with that being said, when you compare it with the, let's say the stun grenade and also the pummeler, that also gives you a little bit of time to also reload if you're having to use those utilities. Again, assuming you positioned yourself correctly, which is why I like using the autocannon in our rapid response loadout. Now, leading next up is going to be the orbital rail cannon strike. So at 210 seconds of a cooldown, you get one direct hit, or you should at least if you throw it close enough, on your typical targets like a Bile Titan, Charger, or Behemoth. I really like this orbital option because of its direct damage and the 210 second cooldown starts going. With that being said, you also can combine that with the autocannon because as you strip its shell, you can start putting damage on its squishy bits. Now, next up to deal with more AoE containment and control, I've been starting to use the toxic gas stripe. I was very skeptical of this build or with this stratagem, but I'll be honest, you guys are right. The call-in time is about 2 seconds and it's a short cooldown and it does a lot of damage upon impact. And then also when it's on a bug breach, my God, you are absolutely decimating with the toxic gas stripe over like the napalm airstrike. But I think for me, why I'm leaning more towards the toxic gas strike for this specific build loadout is because I'm wanting to reduce the amount of cooldowns I have, right? As you guys know, if you run more hangers, like airstrikes, when it goes to do an eagle rearm, or if you hypothetically use one airstrike, you can't use the other. You have to wait for the cooldown. And I don't want to wait for cooldown, right? We need a quicker response. So toxic gas strike takes the cake within this build loadout. And lastly, you guys are like, oh, Frosty's going to say the 500 kg. I'm going to surprise you guys in this video. It's actually going to be the eagle airstrike. So we get 3 cooldowns when using the XXL weapons bay, which I'll show what the ship module does here. And this allows me to have 3 cooldowns. It does a lot of damage. On top of that, it's one of our more direct / AoE. So what I mean by that is direct is if I stun grenade a charger, for example, and then I throw an eagle airstrike on it, it can kill it. I can also do it on a Bile Titan if I'm good enough in terms of timing it. It can kill it. It can strip the shell from it, and you get 3 cooldowns. So it's extremely powerful. You know, I could run the 500 kg, absolutely correct. I could also run the 110 pods with more of a direct impact. So what I mean by that, like the orbital cannon strike, it'll go towards the biggest target. Same thing with the 110 millimeter pods. However, in terms of versatility, the eagle airstrike takes the cake for a rapid response because it can also kill bug holes. It can also do more AoE, and it can also do direct damage. So that's kind of the bread and butter of my stratagems for the rapid response. But as you guys know, there's always variations of these, but that's what I like using here. So that concludes our stratagems segment of the rapid response loadout. Leading into our playstyle summary, the overall idea of this loadout is to allow the user to respond to threats in an immediate manner. It may not be the best solution, but it can respond and have a quicker time to continue using throughout the mission. We're basically filling in the weak points of our teammates' builds. I tend to find myself pulling a lone survivor playstyle, however, when playing this build because I'm able to control the flow of battle until there's a giant spawn of Bile Titans that I can no longer control and I need my teammates to come flush them out. But I say the lone survivor playstyle because I am typically wandering with this build trying to get any super credits or any samples for our teammates. There are a lot of holes in this build that I will admit, such as dealing with Bile Titans more effectively or Chargers and Behemoths, but think of this more as it's just a fun build nonetheless. So we do rely on our teammates as they rely on us to do our job, which would be controlling enemies and quickly dealing damage to any heavier threats. So when they go in for the kill, it can be done. That about wraps up our rapid response build loadout. Let me know down below what you guys think about the build. And then before we end the video, I want to make sure I say thanks again for watching. And then also as a special announcement, we have started our membership on the channel. So what that means is we're going to have specific YouTube sub badges. So for anyone who is interested in joining in to be a loyal gnome, as we like to call it here on the channel now, it will show up in an icon for you on the comment section. And then when we do decide to start multi-streaming in the near future, if you come in and interact with us, everyone will know that you are a part of the channel with this specific badge. Now, I really want to emphasize to you guys that I don't expect anyone to do this, and this is all voluntary. I appreciate y'all's support heavily through your likes and subscriptions on the channel, but I just wanted to make sure that I announce this for anyone who is interested. In closing, I really want to say this has been quite the journey, and you guys have been really blessing me. So I really appreciate making these videos for y'all. I'm excited for the next war bond that's coming up in the next patch notes, so stay tuned as we cover that within the next video. And then lastly, before we go, don't forget to check out these two amazing videos as you're heading on out. With that being said, thank you again and happy diving. I'll see you on the next dive.